Okay, good to go. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this year's annual general meeting of the Devon Partnership NHS Trust. My name's Ian Turner. I'm the Deputy Chair of the Trust and one of the non-executive directors. I also happen to chair the Audit Committee as the slide says. So this is our annual general meeting for the year to the 31st of March 2025. The AGM is a chance for us all to look back on the year and what's happened, but also gives an opportunity just to look forward a little bit to what the next year, the year we're in now, holds. What we're planning to do is spend about 45 minutes in this session, and there'll be opportunity at the end for me to put questions to the other members of the panel, who I'll come on to in a minute. So if you have any questions, please do type them into the chat bar, and I'll pick them up at the end. We'll do our best to answer those questions between us. If there's anything that's a bit too technical for us, we'll make certain we get a response back in writing after the meeting. Could I please ask that you keep your microphones on mute during the meeting, please? That would be really helpful. Apart from anything else, we sometimes get other noise coming in off open microphones. So if that would keep those on mute, please, that would be really, really appreciated. And just to note, this is a virtual meeting and is being recorded, and the link will be shared on the website and social media channels following the event. So the whole session can be picked up by friends and colleagues after the event. So this is the agenda today. We're going to have the I'm just going to do a 2-second sort of highlights for the year, which will then be followed by some more detail on that by Fintan Larkin, our Chief Medical Officer. I'll just do a quick finance overview, and then Phil Mante, our CEO, will do a session on people and culture and looking forward, and then we'll pick up the questions. So that's fantastic. So just moving the slide forward. So who are we? So I think here are some stats, some sort of key bits of information about us. I won't go through the whole slide, but just to pull off a couple of things. I mean, so we are, as we know, a major provider of mental health, learning disability and neurodiversity services in Devon and Torbay. But we're also really, really proud to be part of the Bristol Dementia Wellbeing Service, which, as it happens this year, is celebrating its 10th anniversary, and a very successful service it is. A couple of stats which I think are quite impressive, demonstrate the amount of reach that we have. Last year we received over 100,000 referrals, which is an increase of about 18.5% over the previous year. And we also made nearly 34,000 contacts each month with individuals, people, patients. And that is a 21% increase year on year, which again is a dramatic increase, and sort of shows the success, but also the challenges that face us as a service. I'll stop there, pick up again in a minute, and I'll pass on now to Fintan Larkin, the Chief Medical Officer. Fintan, over to you.
Many thanks, Ian. And welcome everyone to our AGM. If we move on to the next slide, which also has a few stats on it, and emphasises really how busy a year it's been. So as Ian mentioned, our referral rates have increased by about 20%, approaching 20%. We've had more than 400,000 community contacts across the year. Our first response service gets more than 3,000 calls a month. There's a few other statistics there, but I guess it emphasises the point that demand has risen considerably, and we're a very busy service. All that work's being delivered by our teams. If we move on to our next slide, please. So we start to look at some of our performance across the year. So we've made very significant progress in a number of areas. So we've continued to reduce our out-of-area bed usage. So that's general adult acute beds. And so what happens across the country is when there are peaks in demand, it's common for patients to experience their inpatient care not in their local area. And so we've worked hard on last year, as in the previous year, we made very significant progress, and we've continued to build on that. and we currently have 8 out-of-area placements. And our intention is to reduce that to 0. Our TalkWorks service, so that's our NHS talking therapy service, continues to do extremely well, continues to be ranked in the top 6% nationally, has increased its offer of employment support, and at the moment I think is still the only service nationally providing grief disorder therapy. There's some numbers there around our core teams, so that's our general adult community teams, and they receive literally thousands of referrals. And at any one time, you'd expect a number of people to be waiting on their first assessment, but we like to keep that number small, and we've continued to drive that down. So you can see from the figures there that it's currently less than 10% are currently waiting on their first assessment, and that's a reduction in terms of the numbers that we had the previous year. If we move on to the next slide. Thank you. So our STEP teams, which is our early intervention and psychosis teams, continue to do extremely well. So they score well above the national targets. So as an example, so in terms of access to evidence-based treatment, so early assessment and access to evidence-based treatment, the national targets are 60%, and our early intervention and psychosis teams exceed 85% and have continued to do well. We've also made very significant progress with our children's services, our child and adolescent mental health services. So nationally, there are considerable waits to access CAM services, and we've reduced our long waits considerably. So almost 90% reduction in children waiting over a year, and almost a 60% reduction in the number of children waiting over 18 weeks. Now, clearly, nobody should be waiting over a year, and nobody should be waiting over 18 weeks. So whilst that is great progress, we intend to continue to make progress in this area. If we move on to the next slide, please. So our charitable arm has had a rebrand. So they're now called Open Up, and they have their website, and you're very welcome to check out their website and to contribute to their fundraising activities if you wish. They've made a considerable investment in our New Leaf service, so that's our vocational rehab services that are based in Exminster. And prior to that, they've made a number of improvements to patient facilities and patient environments. So they're fantastic work, and you can check out their website and get involved if you wish. If we move on to our next slide, please. So I think this is the video will be coming just in a second. It'll just take a minute to load. And this is our mental health in schools team. So it's an award-winning team. It currently reaches over 70% of schools in Devon, and that number is growing. And I'm hoping that if we can get the technology right, you'll now see a short clip that gives you a flavour of the work that's done by that great team. I don't know if others can hear the audio. I can't hear it at the moment. I see a chat comment. The audio is actually a pretty important part of it, so hopefully we can get that going. We'll give it another couple of seconds.
Apologies, we'll try that again now.
Yeah. Okay, great. Or we could just share the link if it doesn't work, but we'll give it a try. I wonder if we should move on. I can see chat bubbles. So I think we've decided to just put the link in the chat. And if that's the case, I guess we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So we're involved in a number of partnerships and collaboratives locally, regionally, nationally. So I'll just highlight a couple. So the Southwest Provider Collaborative is one of the largest collaboratives in England, and we're the lead provider for that collaborative, and it caters for a population of over 5.5 million people. As a result of the work of the Southwest Provider Collaborative, 85% of adults with secure mental health needs now receive the treatment in the region they are from, so more locally. And we've had significant reductions in length of hospital stay, so they're down by around 50%. We also have a key role in the Devon Mental Health, Learning Disability and Neurodiversity Provider Collaborative. And just to highlight that the Crisis Cafes, which that collaborative commissioned, won last year's Positive Practice in Mental Health Awards. If we move on to our quality and safety programs, so we have a number of quality and safety programs. And what's key here is co-production. So as we continue to develop our services and improve, co-production is a really important part of that. And we've made progress in a number of these areas. Just as a simple example, the safe and physical healthcare. So we've put together physical health hubs, and a higher percentage of our patients with serious mental illness now have recorded annual physical health checks. So we intend to continue to roll those out and to improve that offer. But it's good to see there's been progress in that important area. If we, so just to mention as well, I guess, in relation to, the previous slide, the focus aligns well with our clinical strategy, which sets out our direction over the next couple of years, and also 6 improvement program boards we've set up to continue to innovate and improve our services and our offer. I guess we might as well move on to our challenges and opportunities now, because that we although it's great to see progress in a number of areas, that doesn't mean that our work is done. We still have quite a lot to do. One area that we're focused on is length of stay in general adult acute inpatient beds. So we're keen to reduce unnecessary stays, so non-clinical delays. There's room for improvement and progress there, and the consequences of that, as well as allowing patients to move on when they're ready sooner. It'll also improve flow through our acute beds, and that will help reduce the use, for example, of out-of-area beds that I touched on earlier. We know that a number of our community services, particularly specialist services, have long waits, and this is an issue nationally as well as locally. So our Devon Autism and Adult ADHD service and our Gender Identity Clinic would be examples, and we're involved in regional and national work to address these difficulties. I've mentioned the progress we've made in improving the rate of physical health checks, but we intend to continue to progress. We've also made considerable progress in reducing agency spend and filling our vacancies, but we intend to go further and to continue to fill our vacant posts so that we can have a higher percentage of a substantive workforce. Our community service satisfaction rate is a really important measure of patients' experience of our community services. So in addition to how effective our services are, it's really important how they're experienced by our patients and our population, and we've got more work to do there. Recruitment challenges. So again, we've made considerable progress. So for example, our Band 5 nursing vacancies are about half what they were this time last year. Our medical vacancies are lower than they were this time last year, but we still have vacancies that we intend to recruit to and to make further progress. I think that brings us to the end of our slides, and I'll hand back to Ian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fenton. That's great. I will now just move on. I'll put my slightly different hat on and my chair of the audit committee hat, and just talk about the financial side of things and some of the regulatory stuff that we do. And I'll start off by looking back to the year we've just finished, to 31st of March 2025. So at the year end, really important for us as a public body. We get our results audited, and our auditor, Bishop Fleming, I'm delighted to say, provided us with a clean audit report to say that everything is correct and in the right place. So that was really, really good to see. And we also have some internal auditors called Audit Southwest who gave us a satisfactory rating. They do a series of reviews into the trust about how we do things and the controls we have in place, and they were very happy with what they saw and reported that back to the board at the end of the year. Our statutory accounts are available on the website along with our annual report, and you can actually scan the QR code and get to them now if you wanted to. Those are the demonstration as to what the money has been spent on over the last year and where the income has come from. If I just talk through a couple of headlines from those statutory accounts, the income for the year, the money that we were given to spend was 435 million, just over. We actually had a surplus for the year of 3.6 million, although if you take off that the write-down in value of some of our assets and capital grants and donations, we actually had a very small deficit for the year of 100,000. That's a reasonably complex calculation, but that is covered in note 33 of the financial statements. Suffice to say, we did what we were asked to do financially, which is really helpful. It has been challenging. We are in a challenged system as well in terms of finances, so we have to work really hard to live within our means, which we're very pleased that we were able to do. There are a couple of areas of continued financial pressure which we need to be really on top of over the next year, and that's the demand for mental health inpatient beds, resulting in the need to purchase beds from other providers, and often those are private providers. And then there's as Fintan has touched on, the need to use the premium cost of agency staff, which has included some off-framework providers, which is something we're working on to try and remedy in the year ahead. This high level of agency usage and private expenditure on private bed expenditure is, as I say, something we will very much be focusing on in the year that we've just started through to March 2026. The other headline for the year is the opening of the Brook, which again Fintan has talked about. The unit at Langdon in Dawlish, which we actually opened the doors literally last week, so that's absolutely fantastic. I've just seen on the note on the chat that the finance link isn't working, and we'll get that remedied and put another link in the chat. So thanks for highlighting that, Joy. So moving ahead, next slide, please. Just thinking about the year that we're now in. Through to March 2026. We have a capital plan. We've got quite a lot of work that we want to do. That capital plan it totals 11.7 million, and one of the fantastic things that we've been able to achieve is that we've been able to receive some seed funding to allow us to develop our plans and invest in solar energy and battery storage. That's a really exciting project which will contribute hugely, not only locally but actually overall into the NHS green agenda. So that's really encouraging. The other area we're going to be also continuing to spend a lot of money on is our estate's backlog maintenance to ensure that we've got a safe environment for our staff and patients. The other thing I just wanted to mention was that we are continuing to explore national funding opportunities, specifically for mental health, learning disability and neurodiversity, to maximise the delivery and quality of the services we provide. It is a difficult environment we're working in financially, but we're always looking for opportunities to seek sources of funding so that we can do the things we desperately want to do within Devon. I think that's it from me for now. I'll now pass on to Phil Manty, our Chief Executive Officer. Phil.
Thanks, Ian, and hi everyone, and thanks so much for spending a little bit of your afternoon with us. If I could have the next slide, please. So I just want to lift out a few points to share with you for this section of the AGM. So our approach to a restorative, just and learning culture is underpinned by compassionate leadership, civility and psychological safety. And we truly believe that this will support our teams to provide the best care that they possibly can to our patients. We have 7 really active staff networks here at DPT, and I'm always actively encouraging colleagues to take time out their working day and get involved in these networks. There are also peer support groups effectively for staff, as well as a way of speaking to the board. So I meet on a quarterly basis with my colleagues Liz Perry and Laura Hobbs and the leads of the staff networks, which is a really productive forum where we can air views and share perspectives on things. We've also been awarded the NHS England Gold Standard Award for Work Experience, which is a nationally recognised quality standard award which gives healthcare organisations and placement holders assurance that face-to-face work experience offered reaches the highest possible standards. And really importantly as well, in the last 12 months as a board, we've made a commitment to being an anti-racism organisation. And to support this, we've done a lot of work with our leaders alongside a national expert charity called BRAP, who have a mission to transform perspectives and practices around equality. And that is really only the start for us, because we know we need to support our staff and patients from diverse backgrounds to absolutely eradicate that sort of approach within services. So if I could move on, please, to the next slide. Our Together approach is something that we're very proud of, and people with lived experience are often best placed to advise on what supports and services will make a positive difference to their lives. And we're incredibly proud of everyone who's involved in our Together team. Working in partnership with people who use our services, carers, staff, local and wider partnership organisations and stakeholders help us ground discussions in real experiences, maintain a person-centred perspective and get things right first time around is our ambition. We know that we always need to do better in that regard, but that is our absolute ambition. Over the past 12 months, membership has grown to 150 experts by experience who have been involved in 120 different pieces of work, including recruitment, focus groups and key trust priorities, and more than 50 peer support colleagues as well in more than 30 different services. So a really good spread and reach and diversity, but we want to do more and are really ambitious. Our offer to members of our Together Expert by Experience network include access to involvement in activities across the trust and beyond, opportunity to learn more skills, training and reflective practice. If we can move on, please. So carers also play a really important role in supporting individuals in our care and also supporting our teams. We launched our updated carer strategy in the last year. The strategy, co-produced with carers and stakeholders, aims to improve the experience of carers and those who they care for by integrating them into the care process, providing information and support and ensuring their voices are truly heard in decision making. And recently we heard about some really positive experiences that people had in the last 12 months and some really positive developments in the last 12 months at one of our public board meetings, including something called Stronger Together training for carers, families and staff who are supporting people at risk of suicide and serious harm, and something called the Triangle of Care, where we now have 12 of our community teams who have also recently received their 2nd star accreditation, and more teams set to follow this process later in the year. If we could move on, please. And another really, really important part of our family are our volunteers as well, who are wonderful people who give their time without expecting any money in return. Currently, we have 45 volunteers, which is a fantastic number, working across lots of teams and services in different roles, including activity coordinators, befrienders, people who are working in horticultural roles, and of course our pets as therapy animals who bring lots of joy to our patients as well. We've got adverts going live soon for more volunteer roles, so if you're interested or you know somebody who would be, please visit our website for more information, because I know, speaking to our volunteers, it's a fantastically rewarding thing to do as well. If we could move on, please. So colleagues are the backbone of this organisation. If we don't have people, we don't have services. And as a board, we remain incredibly proud of all that they do each and every day to support those in our care and each other. Always looking at what we can do to recruit and retain and grow our staff. We do still use a fair number of temporary staff engagements, and we would much prefer to have permanent staff members. We're very good at supporting flexible working, which you'll hear about in a moment. We've wonderfully grown our cohort of internationally educated colleagues as well, and that continues to grow each year. We've run something called a reciprocal mentoring program this year that is coming to the end of the first cohort, where partner colleagues have partnered with members of the board, such as myself and Ian and other board members who are on the call. And this has been very, very successful. And this is about working together to learn from each other's different perspectives. We have 218 apprentices now working across our organisation. Of these, 179 were clinical apprenticeships, people in clinical roles, and we continue to exceed the national target for new apprenticeships each year, which we're incredibly proud of. If we could move on, please. So as a board of directors, we are out and about weekly visiting our teams and services across Devon, and it's always a pleasure to meet with them and understand more about the work and challenges that they might be facing. We like to spend a good amount of time with people so they sort of feel comfortable in our company and open up and speak to us about what's really going on, rather than drop in for an hour and not really get that opportunity for discussion. We've also held the annual staff engagement event called Our Journey. More than 700 colleagues attended last year across about 10 to 12 different events, I think it was. This is a chance for colleagues to catch up with each other face to face, hear from us as an executive team, and also spend some time on particular areas of focus, usually around the cultural developments that I've mentioned, with specific reference to our restorative, just and learning culture. We were also delighted to hold our annual staff awards, the Pride of DPT, in December. We had over 270 nominations across 6 categories, and it's an absolute delight to spend time with people celebrating what other colleagues recognise as their excellence, and we're more than happy to do that every year. So if we could move on, please. I just want to mention the NHS staff survey. Our response rate was just over half of colleagues completed that, which is about average when you compare us to other mental health and learning disability providers across the country. The people promise element themes and subscores are scored on a scale of 0 to 10, where a higher score is more positive than a lower score. You can see all of those on your screen now. The questions in the NHS staff survey are aligned to something called the people promise. This sets out, in the words of NHS staff, the things that would most improve their working experience, and is made up of 7 elements. In support of this, the results of the NHS staff survey are measured against the 7 people promise elements, as you can see. The best mental health trust score for flexible working a second year in a row is something that we're very proud of within this. If we could move on, please. So I'd like to mention a few examples of where excellence within our organisation has been recognised by others. There's 6 examples here, but I'm going to pull up a handful for you. So the Junipers, which is our psychiatric intensive care unit, became only one of a few PICUs in the whole country to be accredited to the Royal College of Psychiatrists Quality Network for psychiatric intensive care units. I spent a little bit of time with the team celebrating that, and they told me just how much was involved in that. So a fantastic achievement from their perspective. Mindful Employer won Training and Development Provider of the Year, which is brilliant. Our Carer Strategy and Stronger Together training that I mentioned earlier were both shorted at something called the Health Service Journal Patient Safety Awards, which is a very prestigious national award, and our CAMS team were winners at the Mental Health Awards as well. So 6 things on your screen there, many more to share, because there's lots of good work going on within our teams. If we could move on, please. I will briefly mention the Brook. Fintan mentioned it earlier. It's a new unit that has, as Ian says, recently just opened its doors, and we're starting to receive patient referrals into the service now. It's based down in Dawlish, where we do have quite a lot of services already down there. It's part of a 40 million regional programme, because there is a second sister unit up towards Bristol, and this is providing a much needed service to people who currently receive care outside of their locality, which obviously is not the best quality for them in terms of experience or being close to their families. Could move on, please. I'm going to talk a little bit now about looking ahead. So the Trust Board has recently approved a new clinical strategy that's been mentioned a few times, which have spawned now 6 clinical improvement programs to deliver the improvements in experience, outcome for patients, reduce delays, and ensure that the best use of resources, both people and money, happen. They are to really focus on prevention and treatment, looking primarily how we improve our urgent care offered to people who are in crisis, really thinking about how we support people with complex needs better, people with psychosis, children and young people, how we improve our inpatient care, and also, really importantly, how we look after the physical health of people in our care. So 6 really key areas that we'll be focusing on over the next couple of years to improve that experience and outcome for people that need our support. Underpinning this is a really ambitious desire to integrate technology into the way that we work and improve the experience for patients and the working lives of our staff, freeing up people to spend more time to care and less time on administrative tasks that can be done in an automated way with the wonders of modern technology. So some examples of what we're trying to achieve in the next year particularly is to improve the recording of our care activities through our electronic patient record, through developing a more concise core care record. We're trialing something called Microsoft Copilot in areas of the organization, which should really cut down lots of administrative tasks for people. We're planning to implement electronic prescribing in our community teams to significantly reduce the administrative burden, linked directly with local pharmacies to speed up the issuing of medication to our patients who clearly would need that medication. We're also seeking to link with the diagnostic services in our acute hospital partners through electronic ordering and viewing of test results, again, to speed up and enhance our understanding of somebody's holistic care needs. If we could move on, please. It won't have escaped your notice about the 10. Oh no, please stay on. I'm getting ahead of myself. The 10-year plan for health was issued a couple of weeks ago, specifically for mental health, learning disability and neurodiversity services. The highlights will be the importance of neighbourhood teams and specifically neighbourhood mental health model, so providing open access to specialist services and holistic support in community locations 24/7, and this has already been piloted in different parts of the country, and we have some insight into that work as being an associate, and we'll be looking to develop our own local offers that meet those needs. You'll have noticed some talk about the development of a bespoke mental health A&E offer, and we're working with our local acute partners to understand what that looks like. Supporting people in return to work who are experiencing poor mental health. So really signalling continuing to invest in individual placement support schemes, which in DPT we call workways. And again, nationally in the plan, continuing to roll out the mental health support teams, who you would have seen in the video if we hadn't have had a slight tech issue, but you can see on YouTube, and I know the link's in there. I know Finton's already mentioned that there's a 70% coverage within Devon of eligible schools. The ambition is to get that to 100% by the end of 2030, and I sincerely hope a lot sooner than that, but that's the national timeframe for it. So we're obviously going to be continuing our cultural journey as well, because we never stop working on that and really embedding what it means to be an anti-racism organisation and continuing to support people with the compassionate leadership, civility and psychological safety. And my last point is around the dementia research facility. So we've been fortunate in being successful in bidding for some money, just about £1.5 million, to create a state-of-the-art mental health research facility in Exeter. So the facility will be dedicated to the study primarily of mental health and dementia. It will be one of a few new centres in the country, and it's going to be impressive, I certainly hope. For example, the plan will include an ensuite bedroom, which will make the study of sleep disorders possible. The facility will also include spaces for individual therapy, group therapy, and physical health care of those living with mental health problems. And the funding from the National Institute for Health and Care Research, and the facility is due to open from September 2026. So when we're doing the AGM this time next year, I sincerely hope to be saying we're just on the cusp of opening that new facility. So that concludes my reflections on the culture and developments of the last 12 months and some of the things to look forward to in the period that we're now in. So thank you. I'll pass back to Ian.
Thanks so much, Phil. That was very informative and some great stuff in there. And I think particularly, I mean, there's loads of things I could highlight, but I do think this is one of the things I'd like to just pull out is it's so that, you know, our staff, DPT, is so important and so amazing, and those 45 volunteers, and that's a growing group. And that's a fantastic thing. So again, as Phil said, if anyone knows anyone or anyone wants to get involved in that going forward, then please just say and get in touch. So this is the moment where we just pick up on any questions. We had a couple of questions that were written in prior to the session, and those have been dealt with in writing outside the meeting. But this is the opportunity for anyone to pose a question. If there's anything you'd like to raise and stick it into the chat, that would be great. And we do have one here. So, Charles, you've clearly been working on this over the last couple of minutes. So I'll just read this out. And so it's been a great deal of work put in over the last few years to develop the rehabilitation pathway based on NHS community mental health framework and the NICE guidelines, the rehabilitation of adults with complex psychosis to help the most vulnerable people in Devon who've had a high utilisation of services and poor outcomes, involved developing place-based care with rehabilitation beds, extra bonds per day. The work also fits with the Polish Commissioner guidance. Is there now a threat to these services, which are highly valued by people who use our services and their families and carers, and are rated good by the CQC due to the pressures in the acute services? That's a great question. I'll put that to Phil in the first instance, and Fintan, you may want to dive in.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Charles. So as you know, we're sort of actively engaged in a conversation about the pressures in the acute pathway, and I think the easiest thing to say is that rehabilitation is something that's a really important part of the service offer, something we value greatly, and something that we're going to be continuing to work with you and colleagues on to make sure that we preserve going forward in the most effective model. I don't know if Fintan, you want to add anything to that?
I think it's a great question, and it's an important question, and I'm actually hoping Charlie will be part of the answer for us in Devon, because I know he's just back from leave, but if he hasn't received emails already, he's about to be approached. I think there's a meeting tomorrow morning that he's invited to. So I think, all our pathways get continually assessed and reviewed. There's a scoping document that compares our services to other services in some providers. There's variation across the country, and there's a period of discussion now about what should our services look like in the future. That doesn't mean any decision's been made. It doesn't mean that we should replicate what's happened elsewhere. It means that we should think about what learning there is from other services, that, you know, that may be things that went well or things that didn't go well, and then shape that to our local population's needs. So I think because the discussion is starting, there's understandable anxiety about, does that mean change? Sometimes it leads to change. Sometimes it leads to validation of the offer that we have. And at this point, what we need is the topic experts, so in particular the clinicians, to help shape and guide what we should do for the future. And if you haven't already received it, Charlie, you'll be receiving a number of invites, as will colleagues in the rehab teams. So is there a threat? There's a continual refresh of all our pathways, but what wouldn't happen is some kind of uninformed way forward. The thing to do now is to have a chat with our clinicians with the expertise, look at the models elsewhere, look at our model, and make a decision about what's right for our population.
Thanks very much, Phil and Fintan. Thanks, Charles. Good question. That's really helpful. Okay, any other? Yes, Joy. So I'll just read this out. At our Expert by Experience group / reflective practice meeting yesterday, we had a very brief discussion about the introduction of AI into services and how this might be done in the future. How is the Trust planning, expecting to utilise AI as part of its service planning in the coming years? That is a great question and really topical, clearly. Very much part of the strategy for the NHS as a whole, and DPT as part of that. And as a board, we talked about that quite a lot. I'm going to go to you, Phil, but again, Fintan, feel free to chip in.
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. And I think my opening thoughts would be we plan to do it with great care and involvement of people in that. So at the moment, our focus is almost exclusively around how it can benefit us, supporting us around administrative tasks, but inevitably we do need to explore as well how it can support in the delivery of direct clinical care as well. And as we chart our way through that and explore that, we will absolutely be involving people who are experts by experience, experts by training, and making sure we do this carefully and that it's meaningful when we do. But at the moment, we are focusing more around how it can support releasing administrative burden from our teams. I don't know, Fintan, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Yeah, so I agree. I think where we are, we're cautious. We don't want to be bleeding edge, but we want to be relatively cutting edge with these technologies. So there's no doubt they provide potentially great promise for our population, but with that comes considerable risks that need to be worked through. So at this stage, it's primarily around the administrative functions that support our teams being able to deliver clinical care. And that's the approach nationally in terms of NHSE's view. There's no doubt that there will be pilots in various places, not necessarily in Devon, but in various places around whether we could start to introduce AI functionality to either assessment or the delivery of interventions. I suspect the future will move in that direction. But there are a number of, as I said, risks that need to be understood and mitigated, and it's likely to be a kind of cautious, relatively cutting edge, but not bleeding edge approach because of the risks that come with it. But I do think, what could come in the future is quite promising as long as we understand it fully and make sure that it's for the benefit of those in receipt.
I think that's really well said, and I think with caution is one of the key phrases there. However, not missing out on opportunities. And if anyone listening has got any ideas and thoughts around AI, please do pass that up through the organisation, because things are moving very rapidly in that field, clearly. Okay, thanks, Joy. That's a really great question. I've got another couple coming up. So, Alexandra, so this is speaking on behalf of domestic abuse victims. I'd like to raise the importance of the trust developing greater awareness of the realities of living with mental health conditions and the long-lasting impact of domestic abuse. It's vital that managers are actively engaged in supporting individuals who face these challenges. In many other NHS trusts, there are dedicated teams and structures in place to address this. Unfortunately, I believe that DPT currently lacks the focused attention and resources that this issue deserves. I'd pinpoint better training, awareness, and a more proactive approach from staff, which could make a significant difference in the lives of those affected. Survivors of abuse and people struggling with mental health need to feel seen, heard, and supported, not just clinically, but also emotionally and practically. So I think, so I think the question in there is, I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I think the question in there is the potential lack of focused attention and resources this issue deserves. Should I go to you, Fintan, first on that? And a comment. Yeah.
Thank you. So I agree very strongly with the sentiments. It's a very destructive area. It impacts not just on partners, but on children. It can result in irreversible harm. I was at a national meeting last week about raising the profile of this issue, including, recognition in dental surgeries and various other avenues to early recognition and then appropriate intervention, because there is a way to approach where you mitigate the risks of further harm. So I think what you'll see both nationally and locally is clearer guidelines and an increasing prominence and recognition in addressing this issue. I mean, there are already a number of responsibilities and avenues, but I agree with the points made. And I guess it's something to be aware of for the future as you'll see further developments.
That's great. Thanks, Fintan. And just going back to the chat, I think the AI point there's a couple of really good comments in there, and that's really helpful. Good. So I think that's probably it on the questions. I mean, thank you very much, everyone, for being involved, listening, and I think there's some really good information here. So please do tell everyone about this, about the AGM. The as I said at the beginning, this is recorded. This will be online. It can be shared with people. And as Marianne has just said, there's the contact points there in the chat. Do go and find out more information. It's all there in our annual report and quality account. You can scan the QR code again, which is up on the screen, or just go to the website. And if anything occurs to anyone after this meeting, please don't hesitate to email in any other questions, again, as Marianne says. And there we are, actually up on the screen. There is also the link there as well. So I think that's it. A huge thank you to you all. Thanks for attending the AGM. A big thank you to Fintan and Phil. Really informative, and the best of luck, everyone, in the rest of the year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.